I mean, somewhere along the line, we have all been conditioned to consume, consume, consume. All right, I want to talk what it was like, financially speaking, to grow up in the 70s and 80s. I had a two-parent household. Neither parent had a college degree. My dad worked full-time at Sears department store in the 1970s. He worked in the home improvement department, and there was some commission involved in his salary, but he did not make a ton of money by any stretch of the imagination. My mom did not work until we were in grade school, and that job was just part-time selling Avon. And somehow we managed to live in a 3-bedroom, newer home. We had lots of kids to play with. There was no crime to speak of, and you could keep your doors unlocked. I know you've all heard these kinds of stories before. Later on, when I was in high school, my mom did eventually take a full-time job, and she just worked at a bank. I think she started out as a teller and then eventually moved over to safe deposit. We weren't ultra wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, yet somehow we managed to have 2 cars. We had decent clothes, decent shoes, and we got cool toys at Christmas time. Okay, fast forward to 2025. I saw a video the other night of a young man. He was 27 years old, and he was just letting everyone know that he was a cop and that he made $70,000 a year. He said that where he lived, apartments averaged about $2,000 a month. He also said that he actually lived at home with his parents. He didn't mention if he was saving money or anything, but he did state that he did not work any overtime, as many of his fellow police officers did. He said a lot of them worked double shifts all the time just to make ends meet. And this young man said that he had absolutely no interest in working overtime because he wanted a life. Now, unfortunately, my first reaction was, if you want to live on your own, you need to work really, really hard, and you probably should work overtime instead of living with your parents at age 27. But then I stopped myself in that thinking, because that was that loop of information that many of us were brought up in, to work till we drop and to basically not have a life. So, of course, jumping over to the comments was fascinating. It was a mixed bag. There were a lot of comments where people were totally agreeing with this young man. They were lamenting the fact that the cost of living and the cost of everything is so high that they can't even afford to have whatever the basics are. On the other side of the fence, lots of people were saying that he just didn't know how to budget, that you could absolutely live on that he just needed to be more diligent about budgeting, look at his expenses, and of course, be more frugal. But again, that goes back to he's not really living life. I don't know if he has a nice car and if his car payments are like $800-900 a month. I don't know if he goes out to eat all the time. I don't know if he spends money at the bars. I have no idea. But regardless, it definitely generated some really interesting conversation. All right, let's go back in time. When I was 30 years old, I bought my first home by myself. I only made $32,000 a year, and I think my home was $80,000. I don't have it in front of me, but I saw somewhere the percentage of income versus the value or purchase price of a home. Instead of the home being 2 times more than what your salary is, it's more like 12 times more than people's salary. And I don't doubt that that's true. But regardless, back in the year 2000, I was able to buy my first home, and I really lived during this time. I was single. I was able to travel. I had a new car. I went out all the time. I went out to eat. I just did a lot of stuff that people in their 20s would do if they aren't married or have a family yet. And I just really enjoyed life. This is the same thing that police officer was saying that he wanted, but it was very attainable for me. It was very attainable for many of us back in this time. So is this even possible for young people now to buy a house when you're single, fairly young, maybe have some student loan debt, you have a car payment, you want to enjoy life, you want to spend your money on lots of things that are fun, you're young. I want to talk about kind of the opposite scenario. There's a YouTube channel called Scout Outdoors. I'll link it in the description below. And it's about a couple, a young married couple. They live on a remote island off of the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. in an abandoned house that they are slowly working towards being livable. And they are homesteading. Up until about 2 weeks ago, they had no electricity in their home and basically used a generator if and when they needed power, to charge their cell phone, their laptop, and to upload their YouTube videos. But a few weeks ago, they installed solar panels. They were not sponsored by any company, and they built the foundation that the solar panels would be attached to by discounted and scrap wood. Then the video showed them going to someone's shed or storage location that was literally sitting right on a dock, and they pulled out an old refrigerator and they hauled it into the pull behind kind of makeshift wagon and drove their three-wheeler, a couple of miles through a little bit of rough terrain and somehow got it to their house. And then finally, after they got the command station portion of the solar panels set up in their home and ultimately plugged that refrigerator in, you could hear the hum of the refrigerator turn on. And I swear to God, everybody took a collective breath and almost started crying. The buildup to this moment was emotional. You could just feel all of the hard work and energy and time and emotion it took to get those solar panels set up far away on a hill, building that platform out of scrap wood, running the wire all the way back to their home, getting everything set up inside, and then finally the anticipation of plugging in that refrigerator. I should say they've lived in this house for, 8 months maybe, and have not had electricity this whole time. They survived without it in the winter, and now here we are in the summer, and they were starting to struggle because they did need some things to be cold. So that refrigerator was a godsend. And I think currently their channel has almost 500,000 subscribers. And every single time you read the hundreds and hundreds of comments, people are finding their videos extremely therapeutic, and they are living vicariously through this young couple. And they cannot believe how different this couple's priorities are and how they are living their life. And so they don't have a 9 to 5 to go to. They don't work for the man. They're not chained to a keyboard and a monitor. They don't have nearly the kind of stress that many of us have either had or currently have when it comes to working full time and sitting in an office with fluorescent lighting or having to travel all over the country and all the stress that comes from that. All to say that we don't have enough money to live on and we can't budget properly. This young couple, they are physically in shape. They are mentally in shape. They see progress every single day from all of the hard work that they put in on their property and their land and with their animals. And basically, they are a slave to no one. I think they are truly living life, and I think that's why their channel is incredibly popular. And so when I go back and see that young policeman saying that he makes $70,000 a year and he still has to live at home and he doesn't want to work overtime and all of the stuff that people were saying about budgeting and giving him advice, it really put things into perspective when I go back and watch a video like what I see on Scout Outdoors. So here's what I'm seeing. People who are working or have worked like dogs. I see it all the time in videos. I see it all the time in comments to my videos. People, really, no matter what their age, are just totally exhausted and worn out. And it's not just from working. It's from kind of the whole rat race. Everything that we are surrounded by in 2025, the information that is being pumped to us 24/7, it's just constant. It's just always in your ear, and you feel like you do not have any moments of peace. And so that's why people flock to channels like Scout Outdoors, because it is peaceful. And just seeing this young couple get it, like really get it, and are truly living their lives, I think the way we were intended to live our lives, is just a breath of fresh air, to say the least. Also, people are in serious debt. And that's just gotten worse and worse and worse over time. So here we are in 2025. We are really living a good life. We have everything at our fingertips. But yet, more and more people are unhappy. More and more people are burnt out. More and more people are sick. And of course, what everybody is talking about lately is people wanting to retire younger and younger. Or people that are ready to retire can't retire because they didn't plan for any of this. A lot of people are selling everything they own and are moving to a tiny house. Some people, of course, are doing van life. They're fixing up school buses. A lot of people are homesteading and living off grid. And of course, by people doing this, and more people are doing this, people are finally realizing that they don't need all that stuff. They've gotten rid of all that stuff, and they are absolutely making do with less. I mean, somewhere along the line, we have all been conditioned to consume. When I look around my own home, I see things that I immediately think, why do I even have that? I don't need that. It does not provide any value to my life whatsoever, except sitting there collecting dust. And of course, slowly over the years, I've been getting rid of stuff more and more. Do you think a single young man that makes $70,000 a year, do you think he can comfortably live and still enjoy his life? Or do you think he's kind of been sucked into this vortex of, well, you have to live your life this way and live in a certain area and buy certain things to have, quote, fun and a normal life? Do you agree with this? Or do you fall more on the side of the young couple I told you about in Canada who are living a very simple life but are working really hard and enjoying the fruits of their labor, literally? I'm always interested in getting these conversations going. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Noelle, and I will talk to you in the next video.